All right, we are live on air. Some tunes in the background. We are up and moving. My name is Naomi Hartle, and I'm a proud member of the Phys Pedagogy and Phys Ed Summit team, and I am very excited to be with you here today. This is my second session this morning, and here's the t-shirt that I'm wearing this time around. Oh, as my headphones get caught. I don't know if you can see it. All right, find the joy in the journey. Best t-shirt ever. Although I'm sure I'll say that about every single t-shirt I have. But I figured this one was fitting because Dean Kriellaars is a physical literacy guru in my mind, and he's pretty awesome. So I'm very excited to introduce him right away here, but I want to wear this t-shirt specifically for this session. So we'd like to welcome you here today and thank you so much for participating in our 24-hour back-to-back live sessions and some pre-recorded sessions. We could not make this day happen without you. We have been very humbled by your outpouring of support and promotion for the event. It's been absolutely amazing. I was looking on the website about an hour ago, and we had 2,500 hits already just this morning. And I think we had maybe 4 or 5 hours of session, so it's crazy. And we have 24 hours of this, folks. It's going to be crazy. I don't know. I'm so excited. And for you, by sharing with one person, you've been able to impact hundreds of students. We have about 1,300 people that have RSVP'd for the Phys Ed Summit. How many kids do you think those folks teach? How many kids can they impact because of this event? So we really appreciate you taking your time. We say this is a free event, but really it does cost something, and it costs your time. You know, whether it's time away from your family, it is a weekend, rather just time relaxing. So we appreciate that you're tuning in and viewing this. What's that number for? Oh, how many students? 325,000 students we are impacting right now. Thank you, Dean. That's awesome. Held up the calculator for me. So we really appreciate you being a part of this amazing PE opportunity, pushing professional development, educator effectiveness, and best practices forward. So thank you so much, and give yourselves a pat on the back for this. Reminder, we are using technology. We are live right now. Sometimes technology just decides not to work. So if something happens where we just cut out or we stop working, try refreshing your Tozzle screen. If that doesn't work, then make sure that you just check out the chat background. I will be there right away once I'm done talking, and we'll be talking back and forth. If we drop out, I will put a new link for you to access. So just be patient, and then I will make sure I put it up on the website. After the summit, we will post a feedback survey for you to check out. If you are looking for PD hours or a PD hour certificate, this is how you get your survey. So you give us a little bit of feedback about what you liked, maybe some things that we can improve upon, because we can always improve, we can always learn, and you'll get your certificate, or you can add all the hours down that you wanted. We have 37 sessions going on, 37. So you have the opportunity to check out 37 different sessions and add those to your PD hours. Okay. Oh no, one more thing. I was gonna say I'm done talking, but no, I'm not done talking. I'm just gonna share my screen here quickly, and I want to show you, sorry, a little bit of tunnel vision. Dean, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Tozzle, which I'm sure you're all in it because you have access to the video. Up in the top corner here is the chat function. This is where we're going to chat about everything that we can. If you have questions, please post them here, and then I can ask Dean as we go through the process. Videos here. Dean has added some absolutely amazing resources. I'll let him talk about them later on, but you really need to check out these resources because they're pretty fantastic. Also, if for some reason you want the chat box to be beside your video, oh, maybe I can't do that. Okay, apparently you can't do that. But I know you can move this chat box here. Anyways, you can move these things around, so just play around with them. Again, sometimes technology doesn't work when you want it to. All right, I will stop sharing my screen. I will stop talking, and I will let Dean Kriellaars introduce himself. All right, Dean.
Am I on? Well, hi, folks. It's Dean here, and I'm sitting in my house having a Perrier right over here. My PhD student is sitting right over here, so I'm going to show him to the world. That's what PhD students look like. See right there? And he's waving even nice. And so we're going to give a little presentation for you, and I've got some resources, and I'll explain who I am in a second. So I'm going to share my screen and get you going on this. Ta-da. And there we go. And This is a good old PowerPoint, folks. So what you got in front of you there is a wonderful slide of a Canadian, because all Canadians are physically literate. And you can see here that we've got a slide of Circus Arts instruction as quality physical literacy experience in phys ed. So I'm going to talk you through that and set you up with the background on this and give you some results of a very recent study that was recently completed in Canada and related to some of the other studies that we've completed as well. All of them were designed to help phys ed teachers or recreation leaders or people in sports to develop physical literacy in children. My job, and here's my introduction, I'm a professor at the University of Manitoba, 29 years in multiple faculties, but I have the distinct pleasure and opportunity to work with people at the National Circus School in Montreal, which is the top circus school in producing professional artists in the circus world. But for you guys, they also have a teacher training program, one of which is online, as well as 2 residence programs, 1 year in duration and 2 years in duration. And you can access them as phys ed teachers. And I have a link on the TOSL website for you to go to the National Circus School and see their teacher training programs, as well as just to navigate around and see what they're all about. Across the street from the National Circus School in Montreal is Cirque du Soleil, where I also do a number of projects, both at the high performance level with the very high performing athletes there. We do the training optimization for them, as well as doing social circus, which is using circus in different venues, including physical education, which I'm going to talk about today. And certainly I'm one of the team leaders at Canadian Sport for Life and numerous other agencies and groups. But today I'm really using my roles in Circus, Canadian Sport for Life, and university, and going to tell you about some projects. So this is some of the performers in training at the National Circus School, and that's my physical literacy lab. And I get to learn about what these people are all about, starting at around 6 years of age, all the way on up to our oldest performer at Cirque du Soleil is around 83 years of age. And if you get physically literate, you can be durable and active for life. And that's a wonderful side effect of physical literacy. And I'm lucky to work with these people because they really embody the concept of physical literacy in every dimension, from the physical, the mental, the social. And I'll talk more about that as we go. Now, bonus material for you. My PhD student sitting beside me and I created the Circus core progressions. This has a little bit to do with physical literacy, but this is a bonus for you. This was just released 2 days ago for all of Cirque du Soleil performers in the 20 shows worldwide, and is being released in 2 weeks to all of the circus performer artists in training at the National Circus School. This is a PDF that you can download from the TOSL website. I've given you access, and this is actually a physical literacy enriched core program that we use for preventing injuries in our circus performers, as well as enhancing their performance. This is levels 1 to 3. We have levels 1 to 8, but probably not for everybody around here. Now, interesting enough for the phys ed people in the audience, level 1 is more than suitable for your grade 10, grade 11, grade 12 teams, and I even use level 1 core in kindergarten kids. So, and they have a lot of fun with it. So that's just a bonus for everybody in the audience. This slide is a meaningful slide and kind of touches base on what the point of using circus instruction in physical education is all about. One thing that's interesting, this is one of the shows from Cirque du Soleil called Kriellaars. I think it's in Denver right now. But nonetheless, the neat thing about the show is that when a kid walks through the doorway into a circus environment, they basically everybody finds something for themselves. And that's a very important element of physical education instruction, recreation instruction, sport, that you want to be as inclusive as possible. And just thinking that you're inclusive isn't good enough. You have to verify that you are inclusive to all participants in the room by providing an appropriate challenge, providing suitable fun, and creating successes and failures for every child in that room. And that's something I'm going to share with you that circus in physical education and many other scenarios does really well. And we'll revisit this in the last slide. one of the key things about physical literacy is that it includes not just the physical, but the social. And this slide really speaks to that. In Circus, we perform for audiences, and in the performance arts like dance, they of course do as well. But in sport and recreation and physical education, even though we don't typically perform for audiences, we pretty well always perform in front of other people. And that means that you have to learn how to present yourself in front of others. And that's such a vital, vital thing. And we often take it for granted that that's going to happen, and it's not something that you should. The audience effect is very powerful, and it creates social inhibition in many people. And in my opinion, that's why we have girls-only exercise facilities, because of the fact that we don't teach a person how to present themselves in front of others. And I'm going to tell you that in Circus, we purposefully progress the audience effect through the lesson plans that we do. And Patrice Aubertin, the name in the corner on that slide, is the Canadian Research Chair for Circus Studies, the only one in the world. And he is in Montreal, and he's my colleague for this research that we did, along with my master's student, Tia Keys. And we completed this study, which I'm going to share you about. And he says all the time that, and we've got to think this way in physical education, every person needs to find their shoes in terms of their movement shoes. And then they have to grow into those shoes and ultimately use them in some way. And that really epitophizes the circus world, but it also epitophizes the need for having movement in our lives and being actively participating in our world. This is the Canadian Physical Literacy Consensus Statement that came out of the International Physical Literacy Conference in June of 2015, where there are 15 countries and 400 participants from around the world. And most of the people at that conference, and indeed most of the countries around the world, endorsed this statement of physical literacy. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can read the pluralistic definition of physical literacy, which is the big grandiose definition we all stand behind. And where, you know, physical literacy is the motivation, confidence, physical competence, knowledge and understanding to value and take responsibility for being active in your life. And it has some key elements: motivation, competence, knowledge, and engagement in physical activity as of the foundations of physical literacy, which I certainly believe in. So you can go to the International Physical Literacy website and download this information. I didn't put the link on my Tozzle, but you can definitely easily find the IPLC 2015 conference, and please do download this slide. This is what I use in my lab to try to help me understand how to help kids and help people of any age. Physical literacy is not just for children, it's for everybody. You can teach an old dog a new trick at any age. Your nervous system is responsive to learning new movements at any age, from in utero to birth to death. So don't ever think that you can't learn something new, and it's quite erroneous to think that you can't, because we have performers over the age of 60 to 80 years of age, learning new, very complicated tricks, and they have no difficulty doing it, just like a child would. Now, this slide shows you that you can deliver quality physical literacy experiences in any setting, whether that's recreation, sport, vocation, performance arts, as an early childhood educator, at school, say for instance at recess, in an after-school program, in physical education, even in medicine or physiotherapy. Quality physical literacy experiences can be used in any of those settings. And certainly if you deliver them, you can help people socially, psychologically, physiologically, and that's all kind of interesting in that middle white section there. But that's, you know, what scientists do. As a parent, I have 2 kids, and on the right-hand side it says outcome. All I want my kids to do is flourish in life and meaningfully participate in life. And if you give people physical literacy through your programming by creating the experiences that they should have to develop their own physical literacy, they tend to be able to then participate in life, and as a result of that, flourish in life. And that means that they'll get better physical and mental health, they won't employ the justice system, and they'll have gainful lifelong employment. So this is what we use in my lab to understand the role of physical literacy in all those different sectors. This is the complicated slide, and this is getting videotaped, so you can look at this at another time. But this is the model we use for creating lesson plans, as well as understanding how we try to target children and adults when they're developing physical literacy. if you look at this slide right here, and I put my mouse on now, you'll see FMS in the top left-hand corner. That stands for fundamental movement skills. Those are the basic land-based movements that we teach people: hop, jump, skip, throw, catch. Those sort of things are vitally important and make up a small part of a person's movement vocabulary, the type of movements that they possess competently. But that's not it. If you just deliver fundamental movement skills, you're not delivering physical literacy. You need to understand that everything else in that cauldron in the middle there is, if you're delivering physical literacy, you have to deliver all of those things: comprehension, confidence, motivation, progressing audience effect. You need to teach people awareness, body awareness, kinesthesia. You need to teach people how to select movements, how to sequence movements, how to modify movements. Certainly you have to deliver motor competence in kids, and I'll show you lots of stuff related to that. And then finally, you have to give kids the ability to participate in land, air, ice, snow, water, but not just physical environments, social environments. They need to be able to participate alone, in pairs, in groups, etc. If you give kids movement vocabulary and everything else in the middle, you basically can create a physically literate person at the bottom. So it's not just fundamental movement skills, it's much bigger than that. And if you give physical literacy, it opens up the doorway to becoming active. That's on the right-hand side. If you become active and choose to participate, you get fit. Fitness is not physical literacy, it's distinctly different. That's strength, endurance, body composition, flexibility, and aerobic fitness. Physical literacy and fitness make a person durable, and that makes a person endure their life. They can do things for the rest of their life. Fitness doesn't make a person durable. Physical literacy alone doesn't do it either. You need both. But if you don't give people physical literacy, they can't participate, and if they can't participate, they can't get fit. So that positive feedback cycle is what we want to create. I'm not going to speak to the other parts today about creativity and motor control errors. That's a different talk. But what is good to understand here is, and I use this example all the time, that developing movement skills in children especially, and competence in those movement skills, are the building blocks of participation. It's the gateway, actually, and also to be creative with movement. If you give only a kid 4 Lego blocks of movement, if they only have 4 skills they're competent at, you certainly can't build a lot from that, and you certainly are limited in your participation. But if you give kids more and more movement skills, the opportunity to participate in a variety of activities in life and a variety of environments, social and physical, becomes possible. Ultimately, as you in this audience expect, I want all my kids to have a diversity of movements, skills, so they can build any sort of activity that they want to do. So that's why we say physical literacy is the gateway to active participation, and that's why we also say in Circus that physical literacy is a journey, not a destination. And that means that everybody has their own journey, and in Circus we take that very seriously. It is you personally invest in your journey, and then you find your way to grow into your shoes and then use them. So physical literacy by definition, and Circus by definition, is highly inclusive and does not exclude anybody from participation. I know people who are blind jugglers, for instance. So in the end of the day, there's a lot, physical literacy is an opportunity to open doorways to participate, and it's inclusive. In Manitoba and across Canada, we have curriculums in phys ed, as you all are aware of. Our curriculums are subtly different, but I will share you this. In Manitoba, we have curricular expectations for developing movement skills in children, and here they are. These are 18 different movement skills that I've listed here, which I'm going to show you the results of in a second. And in Manitoba, we expect competence, entry-level competence, in these movements by grade 4. And you can see the check marks for grade 4, that if a child should be able to run a square, run there and back, do crossover, skipping, hopping, galloping, etc. And by grade 5, we add a few more. And the concept there is that if you deliver motor competence in those movement skills, those basically fundamental movement skills, you then enable participation for children. And sadly, I'm going to tell you through numerous studies, we have shown that we don't deliver entry-level competence in these movement skills. That then disables grade 7, grade 8, grade 9 phys ed curriculums from being able to do their jobs. Because if you don't have the building blocks, you can't assemble them into more complicated movements. So we've developed a number of tools, and I encourage you to explore these. They're called the Physical Literacy Assessment Tools for Youth, the PLAY tools. and they're listed on the right-hand side of that slide. One of the tools is called Play Fun, which measures motor competence and 18 different movement skills that are curricularly linked and measures confidence, comprehension, and the quantity of acquired movements. We also have Play Creativity, which is a tool that measures movement creativity in children, as well as 3 perceptual tools, Play Self, Play Parent, and Play Coach, where the child can assess their own physical literacy, the parent can assess the child's physical literacy, and the coach or the teacher can assess the child's physical literacy. And finally, we have the Play Inventory, which measures the amount of participation they have in life. Those tools on the right-hand side were all designed based on the domains of physical literacy, which are shown on the left-hand slide. Physical literacy is more than physical, it's cognitive and affective domains, as well as social and behavioral. So it's important to understand that we've developed these tools, they're all valid and reliable, and we've used them to study physical education in a bunch of different ways. So let's get to the Circus stuff. The first thing you need to know, this is not the Circus study, but this shows you what the state of affairs is for all developed countries in this world. If you look at age on the bottom and the ability to throw on the right, better ability to throw, not how far they can throw, but the movement competence they have in throwing, is illustrated on the vertical axis. This is a very large sample of nearly 3,000 boys and 3,000 girls in Canada. This is normative data. And what you see here is that girls are behind boys at almost every single age, independent of the physical education, sport, and recreation programming and parenting that we provide. That is inappropriate because we don't have different movement standards for boys and girls. We don't have different curricular standards in any way. We don't have different reading standards or math standards. By age 8, you can see in this graph, girls begin to lag behind boys, and that stays present all the way to adulthood. Now, this is just one movement skill, and I'll show you a few more. Interesting enough, the curricular expectation line in Manitoba is the blue line on top. The boys aren't reaching the line, and the girls are definitely not, and there's a gender gap between the boys and girls. Here's another movement skill, a lower body manipulation skill, kicking, and you can see again that by age 8, girls are dropping in motor competence. Why is that? I'm going to show you why in a few minutes. And this is disconcerting for boys and girls, especially for girls, because if you lose your competence in producing movement skills, the next thing that happens is this, illustrated here. Whether the child is self-reporting their confidence or whether we have other people assessing their confidence, we see the same result, that after the age of 8 in young women, their confidence in doing activities drops precipitously. You can see that in green. Boys levels off fairly well, but as a result of breaking the competence in young women at age 8, we see a drop in confidence. So confidence is driven by competence. And if you don't deliver competence in movement skills, which is curricularly linked, you're not going to develop confident people. So this cycle was developed by Liz Taplin in England, and she said, if you develop competence, you get confidence. If you get confidence, you get motivation, and then you're going to get more competence. That positive feedback cycle is a wonderful thing, and our data, our studies clearly supports that. This is a slide that I don't like showing, but I'm going to show it to you because it actually makes me very unhappy, and it's a slide about happiness. But we actually measured, again, these 3,000 children, and we asked them a simple question, which you can see on the vertical axis. Do you believe that being physically active makes you happier? What a simple question. And what I want you to see here is that girls after the age of 9 begin to drop or dissociate happiness from physical activity. This is normative data, so there's no discussion about this. And what we think happens here is that by not delivering competence to young women in ages 7 and 8, grades 3 and 4, we then see a dissociation from confidence, and then we see them dissociating happiness from participating in physical activity. These are sad states of our culture. This isn't a phys ed problem alone. This is our cultural problem. This is the 18 movement skills that we measured, and this is on 6,000 children just last year. And when boys are better than girls, it's on the right-hand side of the vertical line. When girls are better than boys, that's on the left. And what you can clearly see here on this slide is that boys are better in 14 of the skills compared to the girls. Girls are better at skipping, boys are better at most everything else. The curricular expectation is that there's no difference. So why does this materialize? And I'm going to show you some data as to why. This gender gap widens with age. And in grade 3, there's almost no gender gap in locomotor, object control, or balance. By grade 4, it starts to appear in upper limb and lower limb manipulation skills. By grade 8, it's across the board, and then it continues to grow. The interesting thing is the difference between boys and girls is eliminated for running and balance because the boys get worse, not because the girls get better. So this is a very disconcerting thing, and this is true for Canada, United States, and a few other countries that I've measured this. This may be the reason why, because we don't deliver physical literacy to kids, why after the ages of 6 to 11, we see a precipitous drop in physical activity in our population. Only 48% of boys and 34% of girls participate at their 60 minutes a day of moderate vigorous. Girls are already lower than boys statistically and substantially in that age group of 6 to 11. I will argue to you, and we'll show you data, that it's because they're not physically literate. And then young women drop down to 3% and boys drop to 10%. This is unacceptable, and maybe physical literacy is the gateway to restoring physical activity in our culture. So is circus arts instruction a solution? I'm going to answer that right away. It's not. It can be part of the solution, but it is not the solution. Even my friends at Cirque du Soleil and the National Circus School do not want every school in the country to use circus arts instruction. If you want to, that's great, and we'll help you to do that. But what we want you to do is look at circus arts instruction and see why it works so well. So steal the good parts from it. So there are only a couple of studies in the world that have looked at what circus arts instruction does. And it's not designed to develop circus performers. And circus is intentionally inclusive by design and non-competitive, although it can become competitive. And it's designed to develop confidence, social skills, physical skills, develop artistry, creativity, audience effect, etc. So we are really trying to help people self-express themselves. And that's what circus does. And through the physical, it means that they have to get physical literacy. So in Finland, they've done a study of circus in schools because they have a very large number of schools that have circus. Like in Quebec, Canada, there's 160 schools in Quebec that use circus in physical education. And we clearly see from self-report that people say it is way better for social cohesion and group dynamics. It's really good for developing confidence, and it really gives you lots of different skill domains at a lot of different difficulty levels simultaneously. And when you have multiple levels of difficulty simultaneously, it allows everybody to get a challenge in their life. And that's really important, that everybody gets challenged. So here we go. This is one study, which was a qualitative study saying, when you talk to kids and parents of kids in circus, they all say, hey, it's creative, I get better leadership, I have better discipline, good self-confidence, better body awareness, I'm better at teamwork, and it's a really safe, supportive environment. Now, we wanted to say, hey, that's really cool when you say that, but is it true when we try to quantify it? So these are the skills that we use in social circus in phys ed. Nothing's really complicated there. The German wheel is expensive, but every other different discipline in there is not all that expensive. Flower sticks, juggling balls, rollabola, like a balancing thing, stilts, unicycles, slack lines. All of these things is what we use. We also incorporate things like theater and clowning so they can handle the audience effect. So in the schools that I'm going to talk about that implemented circus, this is what we did. So in the schools, we actually did a study, and I'm going to show you the results of that now, where we had 110 kids where they used circus in physical education. The phys ed teachers became circus instructors, and they were all trained in circus programs. And we compared them to 3 schools that had standard physical education curriculum. So there were 110 kids in the phys ed schools using circus and 101 kids in the phys ed schools using regular physical education curriculum. This was done in grade 4 and 5 for the reasons I showed you earlier, because that's a sensitive period. And we had about an equal number of kids in grade 4 and 5 and about an equal number of kids in male and female. You can see here very quickly that we measured them in January and June of 2014. This is a very recent study, and getting it out to you really quick. And you can see here that we measured play fun to measure motor competence, play self on the kids to see what they thought about themselves and their physical literacy, play inventory to see what activities they participated in. We asked the parents what they thought about their kids, and we asked the teachers, the coaches, what they thought about the kids. So in this case, play coach, it's the actual phys ed teachers' responses to what they thought of their kids. And here's the results. This is the big one. What I'm going to talk you through here, I'm going to bring my mouse on. In the beginning, we measured their aggregate motor competence in 18 different movement skills, and this is just showing grade 5. If you look at standard phys ed here, and in green, that's females, in blue, it's boys. And you can see that the girls are lagging behind the boys in motor competence. That shouldn't be happening, but does. In the Circus schools, it was about the same at the starting point, and the girls are lagging behind the boys, but a little bit less, but not much. But we can see here that over time, and the bars on the right-hand side are at the end of the study, which is just 1 semester. And we can see here that the phys ed schools, they actually improved. The girls got a little bit better, but not much. The boys got a little bit better, but more than the girls. So you can see here now that the gender gap between boys and girls is increasing, which is something we don't want. The girls in the Circus schools had a lot of participation because they were included in all things, and therefore they developed their motor skills by doing repetition-based learning. And you can see here that the girls dramatically increased in their physical competence in 18 different motor skills. The boys also increased dramatically, so that by the end, there was a substantial difference in 1 semester in the motor competence in 18 different curricularly linked movement skills between the schools that use a Circus arts instruction approach in physical education class compared to standard phys ed. These were all specialist teachers, and they're all doing 1 hour a day of physical education on average. And in this case, the Circus was inside the physical education classes. So here's
Dean,
yeah, go ahead.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
That's real. We're getting some good discussion in the back channel here, and there's a question for you. And a few people are saying, this is absolutely amazing information that they would like to share with their staff, but they're finding it hard to share with their staff members because they're already doing enough stuff as is, and then we're trying to tell them all this information and people get overwhelmed. Right. So the question for you is, how can we as physical educators communicate to parents and school community about the gender gap in physical activity performance?
Yeah. Well, first off, the data that you're seeing, and you're going to have this video online, and I purposely put those slides in there in the video, so you'll have the video of this so that you can actually show the people. There are very few studies that have actually documented it as well as what we've done in Canada. We've known about the gender gap for a while, but not as well documented as what we've done now. And especially we've measured it from 4 years of age to 20 years of age, and 28,000 kids. So we're pretty certain about this, and these slides will help you make this a key point. Mm-hmm. We have the same reading and writing standards for boys and girls. We have the same math standards, and we should have the same movement competence standards. And you have to become advocates. The people that are listening now have to be advocates to say physical literacy should have equal footing to literacy and numeracy. They all should be on equal playing fields. And I'll show you a slide on that in a second.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
Folks are wondering if the presentation would be available to them.
I can take these slides and dump it onto the Tozzle. If again, I will do that.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah. So here's the difference in all the different movement skills that we measured between the phys ed Circus combination compared to standard phys ed, just for grade 5. And you can see here that so when it's a positive bigger number like 10, that means that the kids in the Circus schools were 10% better than the kids that were in the standard phys ed curriculum. And this is basically because lesson planning in Circus is highly inclusive and participatory. So you get a lot of repetitions for everybody in the classroom, and that's why you see such a big effect. You'll notice that foot dribble did not change at all because of the fact that we don't do anything with foot dribbling in Circus. That's a deficit of it. But interesting enough, compared to standard phys ed curriculum, there's a dramatic impact here, and it's not the fact that it's Circus, it's because it's inclusive and participatory. So basically we say Circus delivers on competence. So then we measured the confidence in the kids, and higher numbers, the phys ed kids had a lot of confidence flags. they didn't feel confident prior to doing movement. And the kids in the circus schools had lower number of flags indicating low confidence. So the direction that you want here is lower flagging for confidence. And it was statistically significant, and especially for girls. You can see that here, the girls are in blue. So there's a dramatic improvement in confidence as a result of participating in circus. Also, for girls, there was a dramatic increase in comprehension of movement vocabulary. They understood the words of movement, which is vital. You can't be a deer in headlights. So as a result of this, we can then say that circus arts instruction in phys ed develops competence, which leads to confidence. And then we asked the kids, hey, what do you think about yourself? And they all said that they felt they could the kids said, this is grade 4 and 5, told us through the surveys, they felt better understanding of the movements. They felt they were good at moving. They felt more talented. The girls felt more eager to participate in life. And the girls felt that they got happiness from being active. These are pretty well all statistically significant and powerful effects. Indeed, even the parents, when we asked them, were able to identify that the circus kids felt, the parents of the circus kids, the kids in phys ed using circus, felt that the parents felt the kids had more physical literacy. And they also felt that the kids who were involved in circus had more motivation to participate in life. So as a result of that, we say circus arts instruction approaches in phys ed develop competence, leading to confidence, leading to improved motivation detectable by the children and the parents. And finally, we measured the activity inventory of the children, and children in circus, using circus and phys ed, had 5 more activities per year that they participated in over that course of the 2014 year than the kids in the standard phys ed program. These phys ed schools, by the way, were socioeconomically matched and geographically matched to the schools. So these are matched schools, and it's very difficult to argue that this did not result from the circus arts instruction approach used in schools. This was a really interesting effect. The blue lines are for how important kids think reading and writing is at school. Higher means better. So blue on the left-hand side, right here, kids in phys ed school, in the standard phys ed schools, thought reading and writing is important at school. Numeracy, important at school. But in the phys ed school, the standard phys ed programming, they devalued movement in the schools. That's physical literacy or movement valuing. So children devalued movement. However, in the phys ed circus schools, because of the culture of the school created by the circus arts instruction embedded in phys ed, the children in the phys ed circus environment valued movement equal to numeracy and literacy. And that's a very, very powerful effect and very important thing. We need to get physical education and physical literacy on equal footing with numeracy and literacy, and we can do it. This study shows us that. So this kind of completes the cycle in showing that there's a beautiful cycle that you can produce that you've got to think about in your physical education lesson planning. So we basically say that cycle, whether you use a sport approach, a dance approach, a circus approach, it doesn't matter. You have to think about these key elements. You have to provide a fun environment, but that's not sufficient. You have to provide an appropriate challenge for every single kid in that class so everybody can participate and everybody can enjoy successes and learn how to manage their failures. And if you develop confidence on a fun and challenging path with successes and failures, you then want to become motivated to participate in front of other people. And please don't forget about the audience effect. If you don't give a child an audience effect, they won't feel confident and they won't feel that as if they're talented. And talent identification in a child is a really important thing. That means they own what they do. And finally, at the very bottom here, if you add free play to participation and they have many building blocks of movement, many movement skills that they're competent in, then they can own the movement, and then that'll give them more motivation to participate. This little cartoon I'm showing you here is how we think about the process of engaging kids into active participation in our world. And on that, I'm going to finish and say that I think I've given you a lot of information, and I'm happy to see if there's any questions. Here's, I'll show you this last slide maybe. This is actually a slide of saying if you want to start clowning around, go to the National Circus School and take the online training program. Go to Social Circus Videos. I've given you 30 videos, instructional videos that you can use in your classrooms, and 30 PDFs showing circus skill approaches. So you've got that online already in the TOZL. Please learn about the play tools at physicalliteracy.ca. And for you and your children, if you want to use the core PDF, go ahead and do that. So I'd like to thank you for your attention, and hopefully you picked some stuff up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dean. Let's just say people in the back channel right now, their brains have been stretched. Their thinking has been stretched, and they are trying to process it. So
Adam's got a question.
Adam has a question. There you go.
Go ahead. Well, I hope there's a lot of information there, guys. Do review it again, and I think it's important for you to do that. I don't see any questions on the screen right there. If you have one, Adam said he's got a question.
He's probably just typing it out right now. He could probably run over here and come tell us faster than he can type it out.
Has there been research, or will there be research into things like class and gaps in PL in addition to yes. Although I focused on the gender gap today, what a great question. I focused on the gender gap today. There are many gaps based on culture, based on different environments, and even based on ethnicity. I didn't speak about that today, but I think that is a good one. So the data that I have on the 28,000 kids allows us to differentiate between rural, urban, male, female, different grades, and different environments. And I think that I can have another assessment on that. And there you go. Somebody's just put up the physical literacy assessment tools, and we're very proud of those. And they're being used. These play tools are very useful and can be used in phys ed class, not as a report card, please, but definitely as something that you can do to understand where your child is at, so you can do a formative assessment on them and take them along their physical literacy journey. Please do. I will put the slides on the TOZL here so that you can download them. Any other questions out there?
We'll see if anybody else posts any questions. I know there's lots of people that are just rethinking what they're doing. I know Adam was saying this is going to really make me rethink my whole grade 6 PE class and my whole program. So
good.
So this is good. Like lots of people are just like,
I'm going to show you one more slide. So I'm not on that screen anymore, but here's one thing. Here's one thing I'm going to show you guys. So one of the studies that we did, and this kind of goes to Adam's question, here's a neat thing. We studied phys ed teachers who solely used a TGFU approach, teaching games for understanding approach. And what we found from it is, although the intent behind TGFU is to be highly inclusive and develop understanding, it's a really good concept. And I'm not devaluing it here. I think it's a great idea. In Circus, we use a TGFU approach as well. But when we actually measured it, if you look at this graph, what this graph shows you, this is at baseline and then 14 weeks later at the endpoint. When there's a negative value, like at the top here, it says minus 2.5 for running a square, that means that at the beginning of the study, the girls were actually a little bit better than the boys. Okay, do you see that? And then all the way down, you can see all the different 18 movement skills that we measured. And girls were much better skippers than the boys at the beginning of the study. And we ran a TGFU program for 14 weeks. And we did that in basically a school setting. And what happened was, by the end, all of the boys, you can see, there's no more negative values at all, which is a shame. The boys sucked in the TGFU approach and dramatically improved in many of the TGFU things, like upper limb manipulation skills. The girls didn't change too much. They did change about 4% overall, so it was still a success. But the TGFU, although improving movement skills in the girls, widened the gender gap. So when you think about your TGFU programming, which often uses moderate or large-scaled games, be very careful about seeing that actually the females are actually participating. And I think it's really important to think that through. And that's what Circus has taught me as a phys ed guy. It's taught me that I have to rethink how I get everybody participating in class.
And that's huge, right? We want the most inclusive class and lesson that we can have possible. And like I said to you before, I don't know if I said, I can't remember what I say on air anymore.
Okay.
But like the first time, I would have never thought to use Circus or think of Circus as a phys ed teacher, right?
Right.
I mean, I did, I taught like stunts and tumbling to my little grade 3s, or, different things like that. Like we've done movement concepts before, but I would have never thought to include the Circus approach.
Yeah. So I'll give you.
It's inclusive. There's something for everybody.
Right. And somebody like that kid in that picture, you walk through the door and you find something for yourself. I will guard you against the following now. It's not about getting 3 balls and teaching 3-ball juggling in class. Mm-hmm. That's not teaching circus.
Yes.
That's actually teaching 3-ball juggling, which is actually quite an advanced skill. I can tell you this, in grade 4 and 5 children, if I use the circus instructional approach in grade 4 or 5, I can get about 90% of kids 3-ball juggling by the end of the class. 90%. If I use a 3-ball juggling approach in a standard sport model approach, and I'm a pro sports guy, so don't take this as a negative on sport, but if I use the standard instructional model, I get about the 20 kids in class, 5 people able to do the 3-ball juggling. So the people who are really good phys ed teachers, you're already doing the right things. Mm-hmm. This is just helping you hone your craft and go a little bit further. And I've learned a lot by being in the circus world. I work at the high performance level, but I also do it in very young ages. And I've seen the value of the benefits of social juggling, so that you just get two balls and juggle between 2 people, and then you change the people. You get the best possible scenario of learning throw catch with different environments and different settings, different awareness. And you can even walk around juggling between people. So collision avoidance, a whole bunch of things. So the number one reason why people stay in activity is fun. The number 2 reason is because they have friends. Circus develops fun and friends among everything else. So I'd like to thank you again. Thanks, Leah O'Keefe. I know you, I think. So thank you for saying thank you.
Somebody had asked, what grade level did they start the TGFU framework?
Yeah, this was grade 4 or 5.
Grade 4 or 5. Okay, perfect.
I mean, they may have been doing it earlier, but that's where we did our study in grade 4 or 5.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. This is absolutely amazing. And
thank you very much.
I've heard you speak a few times, and I every time you speak, I hear something new, and I learn something new. And I know you did. I think you did a webinar for Thompson Huddle, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I strongly encourage others to check out that webinar.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the Huddle Connect webpage, I believe, and that was another one that kind of blew my mind a little bit as well. So please check everything out that Dean has done. And I know, asking you questions. Can they send you an email if they have a question?
Absolutely. I get around to the emails eventually, so do email me, and do email me again if I don't respond, because it's just gone off my screen.
He's a very busy person.
Yeah, but I am I'd be remiss in not saying, Naomi, thank you. Unbelievable what you have done. Your team is amazing. You're amazing. And I think that we're speaking to the converted here. And,
yes.
And the most important thing is we need to find ways to get to the non-converted. So do become physical literacy phys ed champions like you are already, but we need the non-converted to buy in. The data I just showed you convinces ministers of education. It convinces recreation leaders. It convinces principals. Use this data to sell what we do so very, very well, because it's so vitally important.
That was awesome. You just gave me chills.
Good. Me too.
Thank you so much. I won't take up any more of your time. I know you're very, very busy. We really appreciate that you're a part of the Phys Ed Summit 3.0. I don't think people realize how lucky we are to have you here. And you're right. How do we reach, we're talking to the converted right now. How do we share this information with the non-converted?
Absolutely.
And that's right, the next step. And we have this information. Let's go take out there and share. Yep. So thank you again so much. We really appreciate it. And I will let you go and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.